Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to today's episode of The Outlet, SheTek's Lunch and Learn with SheTek's Extraordinary Women. Today's episode is the 5th episode in our ongoing SheTek webinar series. I can't believe it, 5 episodes already. We are sailing right along, bringing everybody the information they need to know to excel in tech. I'm Meg Virag, Program Coordinator for SheTek, and I'll be your host today. We'll be recording today's webinar, and we'll be sure to get you a link to the recording on the SheTek Power community once it's available. Right now, all of our attendees are muted by default, and we'll also have time for a Q&A with today's guests after our conversation is completed. Please submit all your questions to our chat box as they come to mind. We'll let you know that it's been received, and be sure to get those questions answered at the end of today's session. Today's episode of The Outlet is brought to you by SheTek, an initiative of PamTen Inc. dedicated to increasing the number of women in the tech pipeline. Today's episode is a conversation about how flexing and pivoting with change over the course of a career is so important and how you can adapt to those changes successfully and gracefully. We're talking to two of SheTek's extraordinary women today. We're talking to Sheri Horwitz of Synchronoss and Chaya, of SheTek founder and PamTen president and CEO. Sheri is also a member of the SheTek Power team. Chaya, again, is SheTek's co-founder and also the co-founder, CEO, and president of PamTen, one of our sponsors here on The Outlet. PamTen is an award-winning global IT services and staffing organization, conceptualizing innovative software products and solutions for its clients and overseeing them from development to implementation. Through her work leading PamTen, Chaya saw for herself the challenges of hiring women in the tech field. Though jobs were available, Chaya didn't see many applications from women in tech. Chaya went on to found SheTek to increase the number of women in the tech staffing pipeline. Chaya combined her business acumen and passion for charity to found Sofkin, a nonprofit organization that operates in the United States and in India to create loving and caring homes for over 100 children in need. Sheri Horwitz, our guest today, is an accomplished IT and product development executive with more than 20 years of IT, global product management, and product development experience managing large and small teams. Ms. Horwitz currently works at Synchronoss Technologies, where she serves as Senior Vice President of Technical Support Services. In this role, she has a broad range of responsibilities, including delivery of IT services, global information security, IT service management, project management, to a global population of more than 1,400 employees, which is not too shabby. Sheri's proven track record of successfully managing the delivery of these complex projects, including smartphone apps, cloud computing, broadband solutions, makes her a great example for all women and allies who want to succeed and aspire to lead in tech. Sheri joined the Synchronoss team in August of 2000 and since been a key member in taking Synchronoss from a handful of people to a global company. In addition to her formal IT role, Sheri is active in the community and works with several nonprofit organizations, including American Corporate Partners, where she mentors veterans, and then also encourages girls in IT and started lean-in circles at Synchronoss as a means to support and promote women in technology. Also, as a member of the SheTek Power team, Sheri is committed to increasing the number of women in the tech staffing pipeline. We're so glad that you can join us on The Outlet today, Sheri. I'm going to hand it over to Chaya now so she can start getting our conversation rolling.
Thank you, Meg, and welcome, Sheri.
Thank you, Chaya.
So good to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, so I mean, your profile is so impressive. So to start with, I want to ask you, just give for the audience, for the benefit of the audience who do not know you, just give some background about, how you got into this career. What did you study in school? What made you, come into this career? Just share a little bit of your journey.
I think the start of my career is probably why Meg wanted me to have this conversation. So I went to college for communications and business. So I was a television management and marketing major. And my career goals were to work on the business side of the entertainment industry. So that is where I started, actually. In my very first job, I worked in New York City in television syndication. And one of my many roles there was to be in charge of the computer system. So I, interfaced with our vendor who managed the system, but also had other jobs as well. That was like a side gig there. But eventually it, led me on this path that led me here.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I see that, when you actually had to make that shift in your career, right? So you earlier worked in a television industry. So what made you shift from that career into what you are today, into the tech industry?
So, and as a first job, I think, I guess at some point, maybe I realized, hey, this maybe isn't for me. This isn't maybe exactly what I wanted to do. I came to that understanding and realization. And a funny thing happened as I was commuting on the train, and I, was talking to the guy next to me and learning more about his business. And I'm sure I must have met him more than once on the train. And he ran a marketing promotions company. So I decided, okay, maybe I'll try marketing promotions. And I literally sent him a letter that was like, I think it was Ed McMahon letters back then, like, you have won $1 million. I did the whole envelope with the window to him. I went all out and basically said, his name, like, you may have won like a great employee. And I pitched myself, and, I ended up working in marketing communications. Doesn't explain how, that's how I left television. But then I said, things weren't exactly working out there. I was younger. The company, turns out, wasn't as financially viable as I hoped they would be. So then I went to work for the company that provided our software initially at the television syndication company. And there I became a systems analyst and traveled and met with clients and helped develop the software for customers. And the rest is kind of history. Then, you jump from here to there, but they always ended up being in technology types of jobs.
You made an interesting point about you pitched yourself. So what made you think from like that? And, why did you think you had to pitch?
I guess I didn't have the exact background, and I thought this might be really interesting to me. So let me think, what can I possibly do to get this job? So I said, okay, it's marketing. Let me try this. Honestly, I marvel at that, Sheri.
So this is something, very important, right, for people to learn. A lot of times we have this self-doubt. We think that, the research says that when there's a job opening, many women don't apply because out of the 10 criteria, they only meet 9. And just because one criteria they don't meet, they don't even apply. But whereas men are different, they look at 2 or 3 things, hey, I can do the job, and they go with the confidence, get the interview, and they get the job. So what you mentioned about self-pitch, it requires a lot of confidence in you. And also you have to have belief in you, right? So this is something, and it's an interesting observation, because when you know that you're entering into a new field, one is you need to have that level of confidence. 2, you have to do your homework to prove that you're capable of doing it. I think you've done both of those, right?
Yes. I often in my career as well, I've been put in situations, like in that case, I really put myself in situations. And when I went to work for the company that provided our software, and then from there, I believe I went to work for a large database company. And I didn't know a lot about databases and relational databases at the time. And I ran their support org and their technical support org. They're high level, and it was like premium support. So our customers were large. It was like the government, Motorola. And you just learn as you go. And I think maybe early on in my career at that time, I learned that you have to ask people questions, you have to read. So you might be thrust into a situation where, or thrust yourself into a situation where you don't know everything, but that's okay, because you know something. Otherwise you wouldn't have put yourself in that situation. So you have some knowledge, whether it's working with people, some technical background, you have something that allowed yourself to thrust yourself. And then once you're there, you may not know everything and you may be uncomfortable for a while, but you read, you talk to people, and you find trusted resources that you can rely on to ask questions.
That's a wonderful point, right? You need to push yourself. You have to make that bold step. That's a great point. So
yeah, just mentioning it to one of my my directs who runs our cybersecurity right before this, and we were talking about it, and he said, he does the same thing. he compartmentalizes, you compartmentalize your fear. Like you just put it away and you just focus on the task at hand. Like, how do I succeed in this current job? And let me just put the fear away into some other part of my brain. And I think that is a lot of what I did.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you also started an independent consulting practice in a company, right? And then you moved on to Synchronoss. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So as that company was growing, we decided to develop a business consulting practice, and it did actually eventually lead me here. That company only catered to telecommunications companies, and it was what we branched out of when we started Synchronoss, was that company. And we started a consulting practice, and that also was sort of learning on the fly, and going to our clients and understanding what their needs are and what they were trying to accomplish. And most of the time they were trying to solve a problem. Like, why does it take so long for us to get from A to B? And again, I think in that environment, I learned about asking questions in a way that didn't make people feel threatened, because I wasn't trying to take their jobs. I was trying to make their jobs better. So there was a lot of growth there, and I worked with a wonderful tech writer, and she and I partnered, and really, I learned about how to deliver information from her, and read a lot of good books by like Tufte on envisioning information. And it was in that partnership that I sort of learned how to deliver those projects. And then I was on maternity leave, actually, when we started Synchronoss as an offshoot of Virtech. And the CEO at the time had called me on leave and said, hey, I'm starting this company, would you be interested in joining? And, I thought about it for a little bit, but it just didn't seem like there was too much of a choice. It was like, I'm being given this opportunity, I need to take it. And so we did. And definitely having a supportive husband and family enabled me to make that decision. Obviously I didn't make it alone. At that time, it was my third child who had just been born. And there was a leap, and there was only 7 of us when we started the company, and the company was in Pennsylvania, and we all lived in New Jersey. So we were all driving on 78, every day, talking to each other. So it was definitely a leap, but definitely having a supportive family enabled me to make that decision. And it just seemed like the only decision at the time, because of the opportunity I knew it would afford me.
That's wonderful. I mean, all of us have gone through different phases in our lives, especially for women. We go through a phase of, you get married, you settle, and then you have children, and you need to take break from work, and you have to get back to workforce. So everybody went through those stages.
Right.
What really made you feel empowered through your career journey? Is that people or your learning? What made you empowered?
I think it was more the people. The people I met along the way. I learned from all the people that I talked to along the way. And I think that you take your experiences with you. So you start in one place, and, it's like a path, and it doesn't go straight. It might go diagonal, but you take those experiences and the people that you've met and you've learned from with you in your next place. And I think that, as you build successes, then you're able to sort of take the next step. But I definitely believe having a supportive husband and family and parents and children as they grew. Like, I had very supportive daughters who also, made it a lot easier for me, who supported what I was doing. So all the way around, and professionally, certainly growing, it was the people I met along the way, I think, that empowered me to keep going.
Definitely, support system is a big thing, right? For everybody that's been successful, somewhere or the other, you got that support system. And with all the changes that you went through in your career, right? Did you plan them ahead? I mean, looks like you haven't. So, through the story, I understand that you haven't really planned ahead of time. But did you go through any, like anxiety, or did you self-doubt about being successful in the roles that you made a major shift?
It's interesting. When I made the major shifts, I don't think I allowed myself to have self-doubt. I certainly, when I went to work for the company that provided our software way back when, and that's really what sort of took me into this tech world, I certainly had self-doubt. I didn't have a coding background at all. I didn't. So I had to learn and talk to people, and I really was technically inept for a few jobs, to be honest with you, but I must have had other skills that compensated for it while I learned. So yes, you don't feel 100% comfortable in your skin because you don't have all the skills that you need, and you have to sort of learn on the job. So to say that I, didn't have fear would definitely not be true. I certainly had fear and certainly was uncomfortable. And, you try to learn as fast as you can, but sometimes you can't learn as fast as you want. And then you're uncomfortable for a little longer. And, my advice would be just to power through that. We all have those feelings and you have to power through them. And, you'll make it through the other side, but you have to rely on sort of what you know and learn what you don't know.
Very true.
Chaya, how about your story? Can you tell me about a time when you managed a major career change?
Well, I did make a lot of changes in my career, pretty much like a similar story like yours, Sheri. But the thing is, when I graduated, I did not graduate with computer science, first of all. So my education had no tie into what I do today. So after my graduation, I actually, just after my graduation, I used to work in an accounting firm because I graduated in commerce. So I worked in an accounting firm under a tax consultant, which is helping me in my business today. So I understand the accounting principles. So after that, I got married. And after I got married, I took a little bit of break, and I came across a lot of these computer courses, computer programming courses, and something I was always interested in learning about computers. So I did a course in computer science after I got married, and my daughter was not born at the time. But with that, I developed some interest in computers. So I joined the firm as a faculty on the teaching side.
Wow.
So I started my career with teaching in computer science. And those days it was COBOL, Pascal, BASIC, all those things. I'm probably revealing my age.
I already revealed mine.
So I started a career teaching. And then from there, I kind of progressed into managing a training center. And then while I was doing that, I also did my MBA, Master's in Business Administration. So I always did this, I used to work and parallelly I was learning. There's a continuous learning process. So after my MBA, then I kind of moved into another manufacturing company. Again, I always tell the story that for 50,000 male employees, I was the only one female in the premises. So there's a lot of learning there. But I moved into computers, the department where I used to manage the department. And then from there, I moved into actual IT company. So in a technology company, then I was in still programming. I was actually managing a group in the company where we used to hire campus hiring and then training them, the professional training, everything I managed for them. And then I also used to manage a small R&D center for that company. And from there, I moved to US. When I moved to US, it surprisingly got down to the bottom. I started as a developer. In my career was a developer. I started as a developer in that company, and then my career shifted from developer to project lead to project manager, program manager. And before I left the company, I used to manage a bunch of applications for different functional departments. I was a liaison between IT and business. So I ran a business process management center of excellence. So all this happened because I was gaining all that knowledge as I was doing it. The good thing is, so much of similarities, when you spoke about your journey, I see the similarities where every time my husband made a move to a different city or a different job, I just went and I saw something and I said, why not just apply? And these were all MNCs, right? Big companies. I would not hesitate to walk in and ask them if they have an opening and then appear for the interview. And I used to be always honest, I only can do this much, but you know what, I can learn. So the level of confidence and the trust factor plays a big role, right? They trust you and they feel that, why not give a chance and let's see how she performs. So almost every job that I took, I always went with the gut feel that why not try? I'm not going to lose anything by trying, by asking. The asking is a big thing, right? So my mother always used to say, by asking, you may find a fortune, but by not asking, you may lose a fortune. So it's always about, ask, you won't lose anything. So that's how I did. And it was a shift in my career, multiple shifts, but at the same time, I always tried to plant something on the side, learn, increase your knowledge, upgrade your skills, and then apply for the next step.
Wow, that's quite a story. So what strategies and what support systems did you have professionally or personally to help you? Those were a lot of changes, including a move to the US and starting a whole new career that really went off. What strategies and support systems did you have?
One of my strategy is always push yourself, push the envelope. Don't try to be very comfortable in the zone you are. Always look for opportunities. That's the strategy I applied. And also when I see opportunities, I want to go, I do my homework. Do I have to upgrade my skills? So I always looked at how can I upgrade my skill? Who are the people who can help me? And I'm so fortunate that I have a great support system. Even with my nonprofit, when I wanted to, before even I started PamTen, I used to work for a pharma company. And as I said, I grew my career in almost 15 years and I was in a senior position. But when I started my nonprofit, I did not leave my job immediately. I made sure that, I get to a zone where my nonprofit is running and I'm also confident enough to start something like PamTen. So I think my strategy is really planting the seed in what I'm interested in, but not dropping the ball immediately. And also finding the people and the resources that are going to be your support system as you move forward.
So that's how you mitigated your risk as you developed your career as you went.
Yes. I always advise, today I hear youngsters, making fast decisions like this. I'm fed up with my job. I want to leave. Okay, I left my job. Now I'm looking for jobs. My biggest advice is through my own experience, when you have a job in your hand, you're a lot more confident when you're going for another job. You drop the ball, you get into that uncomfortable zone, probably that's not the right time for you to apply for another job and try. I mean, if there are circumstances where you don't have an option and you lost the job, that's a different scenario. But when you have something in your hand, start planting those seeds and plan for it. And then when you're ready, then you leave the job, then you drop the ball. And that has been my strategy. It really worked well for me.
Yes, and I concur with that. And I also suggest to people, you may be fed up with your current job and where you are in it, but that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities within your company.
Yes.
So, I always encourage people to take a moment and see maybe what they want to learn and see if there's an opportunity to learn that skill within their current job. Ideally, eventually, if they want to leave that company, that's fine, but they might actually stay. And in the process, they could learn a skill while they have a job and, seek new skills from a current employer may change your perspective completely on that current employer as well.
No, that's a great point, Sheri. I think a lot of times people don't realize that there could be many opportunities within the company itself. That's the reason why you have to have a much larger vision. You have to look outside your job, right? You have to look at what is happening in the company. And that's a great point. Even I have done in my career the same. I look for opportunities within the company. I went and asked for, give those opportunities. You have to ask. Again, it comes back to asking.
It does. And not being, and being willing to take on new adventures. I've had a lot of adventures at Synchronoss, so and some were unexpected, but they've all given me the experience to help me do the job that I have today. So I started in product management, then I was in engineering side of the house for a good part of my career at Synchronoss. You know, I managed both the client side, the server side, the high-level testing, and then I moved into IT. So, and I've learned so much in IT. It's been so eye-opening and wonderful. I love it. So, you know, you just don't know, even within your own company, what opportunities can be presented to you.
That's actually leads into my next question. You already talked about, maybe you covered a little bit about opportunities, but you also, you know, you mentioned earlier about keeping the options open, some of our conversations, right? So what kind of options you came across while you were on a particular job, and how did you take those options as an opportunity? And what's your advice to people about keeping their options open?
Mine would be, you know, don't shut any doors. And look at, you know, I met a guy on a train. Like, there you have it. There's there's a little window of cracks, open it up and see what happens. It didn't work out in the long run, but it was a fun adventure while it lasted. You know, I would say, don't let yourself get stale. Ask questions, and be open-minded. That's really what I would talk about in terms of keeping option opens. What about you, Chaya? How would you tell people to keep their options open?
I mean, this goes back to some of the points you already mentioned, right? So if you are in a company, you don't want to be restricting yourself to something, you know, in your comfort zone. You got to get out of that comfort zone. There are opportunities around you, right? You need to keep those opportunities as options for you, open options for you. So it's easy then for you to plan for it and then also seek those opportunities. So in my career, the options that I kept open were always, you know, even today, right? If, you know, sometimes I joke, you know, I'm running this company, I'm doing this. So I'm already planning my retirement, right? So if this doesn't work, I'm going to work on something else, right? I think it makes you more adaptable to the change, especially in this current situation with COVID, right? There's so much change in our lives and our careers, everything. So people have to keep the options open in the sense, if not this job, what other jobs am I fit for, right? And then what else do I need to do to improve my skills and be at least a reasonably good fit for that job? I think those are the kind of things. Every time I wanted to make my next move, I always kept various options ready for me. And, you know, I never see failure as an insult. Most of us, you know, we see that as more as a learning experience, right? So even when you're going to a job interview, if you go with the feeling that I might fail in the job interview, it's a different way you present yourself versus if you go with the confidence, you know, it's okay, I'm trying. I'm just giving it a try and I'm positive that I'm going to fit for that job. Then your approach is different, your style is different. So it's not only about keeping the options open, but it's also able to accept the outcome. I think once you are in that position to accept the outcome, the way you perceive things, the way you present yourself is going to be so different.
It's very true. It's very true. It almost also goes back to taking the fear and compartmentalizing it, which we talked a little bit earlier. Just don't be afraid to present yourself the best way you can, even if you don't think you're 100% qualified for the job.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, Sheri, you are in the leadership position in your company, right? So it's also important for employees being given the opportunities to explore various options and career options and also grow in the company. So what actions or strategies do you take to make your employees comfortable with exploring those career changes?
One of the best things about being a leader is I love talking to people, like everyone. I love traveling the world and meeting my teams all over the world and really getting to know them and understanding what their career aspirations are. So in doing that, you keep it in mind. So like, oh, this person is doing this job, but they're really interested in this one. And then if you hear that another job becomes available that is in that person's interest, you could go back to that initial person and say, hey, there's a job here in, cybersecurity. Are you interested in looking into it? So I think just talking to people is a simple thing. It just of course, with 1,600 employees, I can't talk to everybody, but certainly we try to talk to as many people as we can and understand, what their ultimate objective is. Another thing that I've done is started the lean-in. So when the concept of lean-in started, we started lean-in circles at Synchronoss. And something I like to do every year with the ladies is just it's amazing, but you bring all these folks together, but they actually don't know each other. They may work in all different jobs. Somebody may be in QA and somebody might be in product management. And so literally, I just remember a few of these meetings vividly where they actually led to career changes for people. Like somebody said, I'm really interested in reporting and analytics. Oh, well, here's, this person, she knows about reporting and analytics. So, then, one person was able to work on how they were going to learn about reporting and analytics. I try to have everyone say, this is what my job is, this is what I do, in case people don't even know, because they don't work together. They don't know, they don't necessarily know what a product manager does. So at least having a roundtable discussion and enables people to say, oh, you know what, I might be interested in making that move. So I think that's the area where I feel pretty proud, because I know there's a few women who have made changes just based on those meetings and based on talking to other people and, and connecting with them in that environment. So that's one of the main things I do.
That's actually, something that I observed, Sheri. I mean, how much you care for your employees, because through our association, there are times that you actually reached out to me and trying to help your, some of your co-workers to find jobs if that anything, happened. So it really shows, the relationship is not just within the career, with the association as a colleague, but you also kind of carry it forward and you really care for people. And that's very, very important for a leader, to make others feel comfortable and they also giving them those opportunities.
I do my best. And I get a lot from, those relationships as well. It's certainly, it's a multi-way relationship. I consider myself so lucky to have had this opportunity to work for a company that grew from 7 in Pennsylvania to a global company. I've had the opportunity to meet and get to know people on a personal level from all over the world. And I would have never expected it. And I've grown as a human being because of it, for sure. Just learning so much about other cultures. So not just what they want to do in their lives as, as professionals, but as people too. So I, wish more people, had that opportunity, and maybe we'd have a little bit more of a peaceful world.
Yes. As a leader, I think it's important how you drive that, right? It's the platform you create, the environment you create, and the culture you create in the company. That's what is going to make everyone feel that they can work in synchrony, right? So as a leader, you have done that. And I could see that because how much you care for your employees. I sensed it through our association.
Thanks. I do my best, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you do for your employees to help support them through their career changes?
So one is our company is not a huge, like an MNC, right? So the good thing is you can be a big fish in a small pond. So which also, comes with advantages and disadvantages. But I would want to speak more about advantages because I see a lot of those as opportunities, because people in our company have to wear multiple hats, they have to play multiple roles. which opens up a lot of opportunities for them to learn. And we are a company that we don't micromanage. So if there is something, we assign the responsibility, give time for people to learn. And if fail, it's fine, you're supported. But you learn from that failure and move forward, right? So there are days where, even in the beginning of the stages of the company, I acted even as a business analyst, project manager. And once we started to grow and we were able to hire more people, and when you hire people, that's the culture you continue to grow with. So our people are given responsibilities, and suddenly, after 3 days, we say, hey, can you just go and do the business analysis on this project, right? So we look for people who are multifaceted, right? So you don't have to have all the answers to all the questions, but if you know where to find the answer, and if you're willing to learn, so those are the characteristics we look for. A person willing to learn and also learns from their mistakes, and they know where to find the information to do their job. And all of us improve as we do, right? Practice makes man perfect, right? So you need to learn, experience, and then keep growing. So that's the kind of environment we have in our company. People even see that as sometimes as a huge challenge, but sometimes it's a great opportunity for them as well. And we also provide necessary tools and resources or the help they need as they come across the concerns or issues. But this is the kind of culture we encourage in the company. If you are a business analyst, you're just not a business analyst. You also need to learn about how to manage and lead a project. And same, if you're a project manager, don't tell me that you're only checking the list. You need to get into the details and try to make sure the project is successful. End of the day, the principle we have is we want to make sure our clients are happy with what we deliver. And we also take complete responsibility for what we do. And it starts from lowest level of the organization. Every work that you do, work product you produce, you got to be accountable to the outcome. And we are here to support any failures. And that's the culture we have. And it gives people, opens up opportunities, because when you're playing multiple roles, you got to learn different things. And in order to be successful, you're pushed to learn new things. And which is a good thing. And some people don't fit in that culture, but that's okay.
That sounds like a great culture, actually, for a lot of reasons, especially when you mentioned, learning from mistakes. I think that women in particular, want to be perfect and not make mistakes. And I think that you have a culture where you allow people to learn and make mistakes as they go, and it's just all part of the learning process. Is a great culture to encourage people to learn, to grow, and to compartmentalize the fear.
Right, yeah. And it is a process, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. I would say I'm still learning. I'm trying to perfect in that. I always wanted things to be perfect. So I'm learning how not to be so perfect in certain things. Good enough is sufficient. So it's a learning process even for me. And, we are steering the organization in such a way that you don't have to have all I's dotted, T's crossed in everything. You probably can look for something reasonable because you need to go with the speed to market, right? So what's your speed to market versus the quality? And there, you have to juggle your priorities. So it's a learning experience for everyone. Yeah. So it's a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And is there anything you want to share with the audience? Anything else that we didn't cover?
I think we covered a lot. We did cover a lot. And I think my only, my advice would be is, don't be afraid to make a change, and don't forget to leap. Look at it as an opportunity, and look at your past experience as something that is a foundation, even if it's not the exact experience that you need, but have confidence, to go for it and to try something new. And come into tech. It's a great place for women.
Yes. So that's exactly, you know, the core essence of this conversation, right? We both started being non-tech people and ended our careers in the technology field. So there's
Exactly.
nothing to be afraid of or to feel intimidated. Technology is probably the easiest career path, where once you keep your skills up to date and you have all these soft skills, Sheri, that you mentioned, people have those and they have also technical skills they try to learn. I mean, it's not a difficult move or a shift into technology.
Exactly. And there's never ending learning. So if you're a person who wants to continually learn, it's a great place to
Yeah.
continually learn.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much again for your insights. Let's see if we have any questions, and I hand over to Meg.
Thank you, Chaya.
I'm back.
Hey, Meg.
Hi, thank you guys for that great conversation. I know that I really learned a lot, and our audience has had a few questions for us as well, because they've been just popping off with all kinds of things in the chat box. The first one that we got was from Joshua. He asked us, what do you, and I think this question is for both of you, what do you believe that young women looking to enter a career in IT need to know, see, and hear as they think about tech as a career choice?
You want to answer that, Hill?
You want to start with you, Sheri, and then we'll move to Chaya?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, you go first, Chaya. I'll see if I
Okay.
can answer it.
I'm going back to what I did actually. You know, if you really want to move into the tech space, I think it's important to understand, keep your eyes open, ears open to the industry, whatever is happening, right? And to learn from, you know, what is happening in the industry, where do I want to land? That's one thing. And second thing is to identify people who can help you, guide you, mentor you to go in that direction. I think mentorship is very critical. In my early career days, I never had that opportunity. I didn't have people who could mentor me, and that's why maybe my path is too long. So it's, if you can find a mentor, an advisor who could tell you what to do in that space, find someone who's been in the tech industry, has you know, have gone somewhat similar path like you, and get some advice. Also keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities. Determine what skills you need to go in that space. Again, if you ask me, I would continue to do what I'm doing and then stretch a little bit more to learn these new things before I make that jump.
Yeah, and that's great, Chaya. I would add to that, is also, as you're learning tech, or you want to move into tech, consider your non-tech skills to help you. So for instance, cybersecurity is just a great example of that, where, you know, a lot of women have wonderful skills to really excel in the cybersecurity area and can learn and get the certifications that are required to really excel there as well.
Yeah, I think there are certain careers which are, as you rightly said, do not require so much of technical skills, but at least having some knowledge, and especially the technology that is evolving. I think there's a lot of opportunity because they don't look for heavy experience in those fields, and they expect you to learn as you go.
Right. And there are areas of cybersecurity that are very technical. So it's a multifaceted area. So.
Yes. And anybody interested in cybersecurity should stay tuned, because we have a SheTek virtual conference coming up about cybersecurity too. So keep your eye on your email for more on that from SheTek. We just got another question in from one of our viewers. They just snuck it in right there on the start of the Q&A. They wanted to know from you, Chaya, what challenges did you face when you worked with 50,000 men and you were the only woman? They're very curious about what kinds of specific challenges that you faced in that environment. I know I've heard a bit about it, and it's a crazy story to tell.
Yeah, I think I can take the entire day to explain, talk about all the challenges, but I will bring up one thing, which was more of an acceptance. You know, men were not used to having a woman leader in the organization. And accepting me as a leader was a huge challenge for them. So there used to be leadership meetings, and I was the only woman in the room. And I will share one incident where I was in the room. Men are not used to looking eye to eye to the women. and they would not give me a chance to raise my voice or say anything. So I started to learn new tricks. So I would raise my hand and say, I want to say something. They had to keep quiet. And I would say what I wanted to say. And there was one point I actually had to say that I'm very uncomfortable when people are not paying it. I feel they're not paying attention to me because they're not looking at me. So I was pretty open and bold in what I felt. I was able to express it in a nice manner, not like I got upset or walked out of the room. I actually sat there and shared my feelings with them. And they because they didn't know, they never worked with a woman in the company. So they didn't even know how I was feeling. So I was able to say it openly. So it takes a little bit of a bold approach, but I was able to express that. And there were also times, people would change passwords to systems and wanted me to, fail in the job. Then I actually did not complain, and I learned new ways, a workaround to fix the problem. And then I later on exposed the person who did it. So you have to, I learned the tricks on how to live in that moment and still be able to not lose my confidence.
That's really interesting too, about how you pointed out that they didn't know how to react either. So it was almost like a learn, teach, learn cycle where you worked with them, you taught them, they taught you, and everybody got to grow together. So that's a great experience. And I think that a lot of people could take a lot from that. Something else that some of our viewers were curious about for both of you is what kinds of questions do you ask yourself when you're preparing to make a career change? So is there anything that you specifically look to evaluate when you're looking to make a jump? Do you want to start with Sheri for this one? Because we started with Chaya for the last one, so we got to play fair.
I was actually hoping Sheri would answer that.
I think the first question I ask myself is, are you sure you want to make this change, right? That would be the first thing I would ask myself is, if I'm sure I want to make it, then if the answer to that question is yes, you almost see it as a computer program. If the answer is to that yes, and the next question is, what do I think I know already to make that change? And then what do I need to do once I'm there? So I wouldn't let not having knowledge keep you from making the change.
Yeah, I agree. And also I think why is also important, right? Why you are making that change. Is it because you're forced to shift your career versus you're passionate about doing something else?
Right.
And you're not happy with what you're doing, you want to do something else. I think the first one where you're forced to make the shift, it leaves you with very little time. So you got to really push yourself into that space. That requires a lot more confidence, coming out of comfort zone, a adaptability to that big shift. And if you go through a little bit of turmoil, and then you come back and you settle down. But the second one, where you have a choice, right? You are consciously making that decision to make that career shift. I think you can be a little bit more prepared. So don't jump into making the shift, but take your time, plan ahead, and learn, upgrade your skills, whatever you need to do to make that shift. I think these are two completely different scenarios.
Right. Yeah. Take the time to figure out what you need to learn, and then what I wouldn't want to say the minimum is, but where you think you're going to feel comfortable in order to make this shift, because it's going to be continuous learning. You're not going to know it all. So I would say I agree with Chaya. Plan, determine what you need to know in order to make the shift. And then along the way, figure out, do I know enough to make the shift, and then continue to learn. Don't wait until you feel like you know it all. It's okay. You'll learn. You'll continue to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
We got one more question, and this one actually came to me anonymously and directly. It didn't even go into the QA chat, and it's such a touching question that I really want to make sure this person gets an answer. They wrote to me, I feel really nervous when I think about changing my job, especially as I'm the one supporting my family and every decision feels linked to my ability to feed them. Were either of you the sole breadwinner when you made career changes? And if so, how did you deal with then the fear of not being able to provide if your decision was not the right one? That's a pretty heavy topic to have to think about. Do you guys have any advice to deal with fear when looking to make a change? How can you jump in with both feet when you're afraid?
It depends on what's your current state, right? As I was referring earlier, if this person who asked the question, if they already have a job in hand and they're trying to make that shift, as I said, there are two scenarios, right? One is you're forced to make the shift, and two, you have the opportunity to make your shift and take your time. So if you are in the latter situation where you already have a job and you're trying to make that shift, I would say plan. Have a good plan and also upgrade your skills, learn, try doing it. I mean, go for interview, apply for jobs, right? Get the minimum requirements, apply for the job, learn from the interviews as well. As I said, failure is not always an insult. It is mostly to help you to learn and grow, right? So there is no harm in trying out few interviews and learning from that experience. And especially when we are in a situation where you are the only earner in the family, it's important that you are very, very strategic and careful in the decisions that you're making. But if it's the first situation where you're forced to make the decision, I would say it requires a little bit more gut and confidence in you to keep trying. And I think there is nothing to be afraid of, especially I think it's not like we're jumping into a huge risk or, into a valley that it is going to cost your life. This is something to do with the career where you have an option to try out different things. So unless until you try, you come out of that fear and you try, you're not even going to understand your level of potential. You could be successful. So these two are different situations, but I would say based on the situation you are in, you got to really strategize and go with a plan.
So I would agree with Chaya. I mean, depending on what situation you're in, either have a job or not, or being forced to make a change definitely changes the risk that you're able to take, especially sole earner, and it's definitely more risky. And if you're thinking of a career change and you're a sole earner, I would just say don't devalue the skills that you already have, because it will be so important for you to keep your salary level where you need it to be when you make that shift. So if you don't have the new skills, make sure that you value and project the skills that you do have to help you keep your salary where you need it to be.
Yeah, excellent point. Find a job that you can immediately find a job and start earning, so you're not feeling the financial pressure, but at least, start planning on the direction you want to go in parallel.
Yeah. And something that I love about what you said, Chaya, is about how you can make a plan. I know that I've read a lot of research that suggests that anxiety is often linked to feeling unprepared without having a plan. So even just the action of writing it down on a piece of paper, I just want to tell that attendee that making a plan can really help. And you can always join us in the SheTek community for help if you want to make some career plans with us. We'd be happy to help you out with any of those needs. All right. It looks like we are all out of our user questions. So thank you very much for everybody that joined us today. Our audience has really loved this one, and so have I, because I've gotten a ton of value out of this. You don't often get to hear the really raw background of what motivates people to make changes, and even to hear honestly, like looking back on your life and thinking about that younger self who was able to make changes. I love that thought, and it makes me think about what my older self is going to think about myself now too. So it's a really great perspective to hear from you guys. So I'd like to invite everybody. Let me pop up my screen share real quick. Put that back over there. So again, this was our episode 5 of The Outlet about pivoting successfully over the course of your tech career. We were joined by Chaya, Pamula, and Sheri Horwitz of Synchronoss. We'd like to invite everyone that's joining us today. I lost my mouse. There we go. We're going to want to join us over at SheTek.net. The SheTek mission is, again, to increase the number of women in the tech staffing pipeline, and we do this through engaging, empowering, and employing women just like you. You can engage with us in our community's active discussion board. We regularly post new topics to discuss things that are relevant to you in your career, like making a plan to be prepared for future career changes. You can connect with top women in tech around the country, like Chaya and Sheri right here, learn from them, and then share your learnings with others that might find it beneficial. The SheTek community also has a revolutionary matchmaking system that's based on your interests and skills that you select in your profile. It makes it an ideal place to find a mentor or somebody else that can help you grow your career in unexpected ways. Maybe you can find that guy on the train right here in SheTek. Empower yourself with the SheTek community resources. We offer trainings in top tech skills like Tableau, Salesforce, DevOps, and more to increase your skills and bulk up your resume. Catch our on-demand trainings on the SheTek YouTube channel and use our free downloadable worksheets to set effective goals, develop self-branding strategies, and more. You can use the SheTek community to get the tools that you need to increase your tech skills today. You can get employed using the SheTek community careers page. We post hot new tech opportunities around New Jersey, New York, and the rest of the United States every week. From highly skilled and highly paid roles to entry-level positions suited for those of us who are just getting started in tech, we've got a position for every person that wants to get involved. Stop by SheTek Careers and you can find your next job in tech today. Come join our community at SheTek.net. I cannot say it enough. Communities are only as good as the people in them, and we want to have you. Come join us, come post, come talk to us. Thank you so much today for everyone that has joined us today. Thanks so much to our guests, Sheri Horwitz of Synchronoss and Chaya Pamula of SheTek and PamTen. You want to stay plugged into the outlet, join our community again at SheTek.net for a follow-up conversation, and follow us on your favorite social media channels to catch all of our updates. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Meg. Thank you, Sheri. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure as well. Thank you, Chaya. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.